everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. I only have one thing for you today, which is a series, a young adult series, by Alex Wheeler. Rebel Force. This was something that came out way later, so as you'll notice throughout the books, many prequel references with the OT characters. Now, before I even get into the book, this book says, these young adult books, say that they're written by Alex Wheeler. Then you go to do some research on Alex Wheeler, and Alex Wheeler has written nothing else. I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you what other people like Quality Autism thinks. Don't know why. Can't give you an explanation for why. I think Alex Wheeler is Jude Watson. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The writing in here feels like Jude Watson's writing, to me. Not to mention the fact that this is a series that brings back some characters from her other works. So why would a random author with no previous writing credits be writing a loose sequel to somebody else's hard work? I don't think someone else did. I think Jude Watson came back and for whatever reason or another changed the name or went under an alias and wrote these books because they're too much like her style. They're too much like her style, and they keep bringing back characters that are hers. So that's my little conspiracy theory video for you today. But today we have Rebel Force, Book 1, Targets. Oh, actually, sorry, before I do that, I forgot to mention one little thing. So, before we even get into that, there's a short comic that you would chronologically about right before this series begins would be, it's a one-shot only comic called Shadow Stalker, which is the it's a loose prequel to the Shadows of the Empire novel by Steve Perry. Ryder Wynnum wrote it, and Ryder Wynnum seems to have been a big fan of Shadows of the Empire because in several young adult books that he writes, we have characters from Shadows of the Empire in his young adult books. It focuses on this like spy dude that that Vader has, and it's pretty good. The art's pretty nice. The story's pretty decent. And is like, are you going to be missing like crucial plot information if you skip this one-shot comic and read Shadows of the Empire? No, you'll be fine. You won't miss anything. But I do think it's fun enough that you should read it. But anyway, moving on to the actual series I was going to talk about. Chapter 1 of the first book. Palpatine talking about, see, now the time placement's a little weird. I think it kind of, parts of it could be taken like a little bit before this, a little bit after that, but this is shortly after the Death Star's been blown up, and it's, according to this book, it's only been 2 weeks since the Death Star blew up, which if we're putting it here chronologically and we're accepting a 2-week gap, that means all 37 of the Marvel issues and anything else that we've talked about since episode 4 has taken place within the span of 2 weeks. Which is just, yeah, these guys never went to the bathroom because every day was something. But anyway, we have Palpatine talking to Crix Madine and Captain Thrawn. I think Thrawn only has like one line in the book, but still. it's nice to have that consistency. I also vastly prefer that. I know we're not getting much with Thrawn, but the fact that we have so little with him besides his trilogy, like we have Outbound Flight, we have the Thrawn trilogy, and I know there's a couple short stories that will come up that will have Thrawn. But the fact that we get, so little of him means that every time we see him, we clamor for more. I think it's better to clamor for more than actually get it. But another thing, in like Rebels, he's already a Grand Admiral, right? But here we see that he had to move up because right now he's only a captain. So I think that's just really cool. Basically, the plot of these books is that there's this spy sent by the Empire to find out the name of the person who blew up the Death Star for Palpatine and then to kill him. Now, I thought this was going to be a contradiction. However, later on it is established that Vader already knows who Luke is, or at least heavily suspects. Like he knows the last name, but just needs to confirm it that that's his son. And so he's understandably trying to keep that under wraps. But yeah, so that's kind of the plot of all these books, essentially. That there's this spy that wants to kill Luke Skywalker, or the person who blew up the Death Star. There's actually, they because it's like, oh, the prequels are out now, so we can connect stuff. Where do they go? They go to Moonalist, the planet of the Muns, right? And Luke has to pod race because it's like poetry. It rhymes. And so that was it's if you don't like the prequels, this entire series is going to annoy you. If you like the prequels, then you're gonna be like, oh, the OT characters get to go to a prequel planet. That's awesome. Now, it may happen a little bit too much in this series, but otherwise, I enjoyed it. There's also some really nice Han and Luke moments in this first book, which I really appreciated. Book 2, Hostage. This opening. We have an opening with Obi-Wan's ghost talking to Yoda, and that was really good. That's what like synced it for me, like that. This is Jude Watson. This is kind of a more Leia-centric story, even though it still has everybody in it, because it's dealing with the planet in a nearby system to Alderaan. Because guess what? Not everybody from Alderaan died. Many people were off on business ventures, doing other things. They weren't on the planet at the time. So Leia isn't the last Alderaanian. But a lot of them are upset with her, blaming it on her for their wife and children being blasted to smithereens in a matter of seconds, only for them to come home and find a crater. And they blame it because she, was an active face in the rebellion. They said had she kept her head down, had she not supported that, then maybe Alderaan wouldn't have been targeted. And, in some senses they're right, but it's also wrong to blame one person for that. If anybody's to blame, actually, it's Tarkin. Not even Vader gave the order, it was Tarkin. But I can understand the frustration. I mean, they just lost billions of people. Friends, cousins, their wife and children gone in an instant. Can't even bury them because there's nothing to bury. Now, who else survived the Death Star? Ferrus Olin. Oh, right, you thought we were done talking about Ferrus Olin, the arch rival of Anakin Skywalker from the Jedi Temple, from Jedi Quest, to the main character of The Last of the Jedi? No, he's returned, because he too was off planet when Alderaan blew up, and he is now the Obi-Wan Kenobi, but for Leia. But, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi talks to him beyond the grave and tells him he's not allowed to reveal the truth about them. He's not allowed to tell Luke and Leia that they're siblings, because they're not ready for that. And to not tell Luke more about his father, because Obi-Wan and Yoda don't necessarily think the age matters anymore for becoming a Jedi, but they need to allow Luke to grow. They need to see who he becomes first before they're willing to train him, which is fair. But Ferris Olin is back for this entire series. Then we move on to Book 3, Renegade. Han is framed for murder. Of course, it's X7, but he's blamed for it. Or not murder, blamed for hurting Luke, because Luke gets hurt, and they find the things that hurt Luke on Han's ship, which is an obvious setup, but they have to question him anyway, protocol. Now, here's something that might be a contradiction. Luke also goes back to Tatooine in this book, I think, and he sees his friends again. But in the Marvel comics, he also saw his friends, and some of them betrayed him or whatever. It might not be a contradiction, but it felt kind of weird. But you know, a cool thing in this book, we get to see Bosk. Bosk is on Bosk is on Tatooine, and he goes to try to attack Luke and one of his old friends. So that was pretty fun, just to see Bosk. And then we move on to book 4, which is Firefight. And where do our heroes go in this book? They go to Camino, because there's like this, I forget why they go there actually now, but they go there. My only other thing for this book is that Rogue Squadron, currently at least, is not Rogue Squadron yet, they're Red Squadron. And then we move on to book 5, Trapped. And this deals more like Ferris and another guy, Div, who was also in The Last Jedi. Deals a lot with that. It also deals with a question like, is X7 actually Trevor from The Last Jedi, or is he not? And, you know, you have to read to find out, but it's alright. It's probably my least favorite of all of them. I don't know, I wasn't vibing with it as much, but it's fine. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I didn't have too much to say. They're young adult books, and yeah, I don't know, there's not too much to grab there, because unlike Jedi Apprentice, you know, Jedi Apprentice had so much room to grow, because you see the end result of a relationship in episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So Jedi Apprentice gives you so much to work with in terms of showing Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's relationship, and to a way lesser extent with Jedi Quest. You know, Obi-Wan takes on his apprentice, and by episode 2 they're bickering and stuff, but there's a 10-year gap there where you could do some interesting stuff, and they do. So, but with this era, you can have a lot of fun and cool adventures, but our heroes can't really progress anywhere because it's only a 3-year gap, and we know that they're going to progress more in the movies. So they're kind of stagnant. Like Luke is trying to learn a little bit more about the Force. Like he's learning little things here and there, how to fight better with a lightsaber, you know, little techniques here and there, depending on the person trying to help him, like in this series. But he can't have a full-on Jedi training session till episode 5 when he meets Yoda. So again, stagnant. Han Solo, dedicated to his friends after the 5th one for sure, would not abandon the rebellion. Now he's still in like that iffy state of, am I going to stay or am I going to leave, you know? So he can't really change. And Leia doesn't really change throughout the sequel, or throughout the OT, besides falling in love with Han. And right now they're having their bickering back and forth constantly, which is consistent with the Marvel comics and this, and so there's not too much. But so I mentioned Han Solo and Luke in the first book, or in the second book, not first book, because, well, it doesn't necessarily develop the characters. It develops the friendship between Luke and Han and makes them seem closer. So that's great. Other than that, there is one more book in the series, but I can't talk about that yet because I need to talk about Allegiance by Timothy Zahn. We'll see if I like it more second times through, but I doubt it because Timothy Zahn misses more than he hits. But I guess we'll see next time. Till then, guys, the Force be with you.